Hello, everyone. It's our favorite time of the year again. It's budget time. And once again, we're here to take you through the warrant for our annual spring town meeting, which will be on May 10th at May 12th at 7 p.m. at the Valley Chapel. The warrant this year is fairly straightforward, as it has been in previous years. There's 24 articles. We can get it done in one night this year instead of having to carry over for two. At least that's our hope. And like I said, it's very straightforward, but I'm going to take you through it so you have an idea what you're going to be voting on come May 12th at 7 p.m. First of all, I also want to thank Barry Giles and the staff here at F.Y.I. Uxbridge for allowing me to take the time to walk you through this warrant. Again, I think this is about our, probably going on 15th time that we've done this between spring and fall town meetings, and it's always appreciated. So let's start right off at the beginning. Article 1, similar to what we've had in previous years, Article 1 has to do with bills of prior year. I think the voters this year are going to be really pleased to know that there's only a small amount of bills of prior year that don't total a whole lot of money. So we've gotten better with our vendors in making sure that we're getting the bills in on time and getting them paid on time. So, hopefully everybody will be grateful for that one change. Article 2 has to do with a supplemental budget. Once again, this year, we do need to come back to ask for a transfer. It's going to be from the overlay account this year, where we had some extra money, and that's to cover some overages in our healthcare budget. You'd be pleased to know we're in the process of making some changes on that, which we will get into later on as we have some other budget discussion. But this year, unfortunately, we did go over again, and there's a need to make a transfer. There is a stabilization transfer for snow and ice. As you know, this was a particularly challenging winter this year. The number of storms, the amount of snow we had, the duration of some of the storms kind of allowed us to go through the snow and ice budget that we had. And there is a deficit this year that obviously we can explain based on what we all know and how this past winter went. There are allocations that are going to go to both Blackstone Valley Tech and to Norfolk Aggie. Both those budgets, again, those are annual appropriations that we make, and we'll be asking for a transfer for both of those budgets as well. We get to Article 5, and Article 5 is the town budget. I'm pleased to say that the overall town budget is only up by 3.84%, and the school budget came in at an increase of 2.5%, which was pretty much a level-funded school budget. I think the school department did an excellent job this year of putting their budget together. I know there was a couple of issues, maybe more from an understanding point of view, during the recommendation phase that the select board had and the finance committee had, but I believe those will all be ironed out before we get to town meeting, and there will be favorable votes on the budget. There were some things that strained our budget this year. The normal ones, salaries, benefits. I did mention earlier that we are making some changes to our healthcare lines that by the time we get to town meeting, we'll be able to give a little bit more information on as to some of the changes that we are making. They didn't come easy to our employees, but they were necessary changes in order for us to be in line with what all of you are paying when it comes to your health care costs within your own families, and also to be responsible on our end to help keep those in check for the taxpayers of the town. There's some other stressors in our budget, our other insurance costs, property and casualty type things. Our buildings got reassessed. Our buildings are worth more, so some of our insurance replacement costs and so forth are a bit higher. Same thing on vehicles. We have purchased some new vehicles over the last few years, and those assessments came in, and they're a little bit higher as well. But again, we'll explain a lot of that during the meeting. There was some discussion on some of the various department budgets. One in particular, general government. There was a 3-2 favorable vote by the select board, with some concerns by a couple of members of the Board of Selectmen that we will address during the course of the coming year. And also the DPW budget had an unfavorable recommendation from the select board, but more because of the fact that we made a decision to add a couple of labor positions into the DPW, and at the same time remove some of the monies that we had put towards care and condition of roads, and remove those from the budget this year because we felt that we were on track still with meeting the pavement management plan that the DPW had put together. But since the select board felt they wanted to keep that on an even higher trajectory, what we have done is gone back, reworked the budget. It'll be represented to the select board either on the 4th of May at a joint meeting with the finance committee, or at the 11th of May at their regular select board meeting, and hopefully some discussion again and maybe some a reconsideration of the favorability of that budget at that point. All the other budgets received unanimous favorable recommendations from both the select board and the finance committee. The wastewater and water enterprise funds, similar concerns by some of the select board members, or actually the water and sewer commissioners, which we will discuss as well at town meeting. But all in all, both those budgets are responsible budgets, and there is some retained earnings that are being used to offset rates as we go forward. So hopefully the combination of both those things will result in the budgets being voted favorably. We are rescinding some capital purchases in Article 8. There's about $290,000 that are being turned back to the capital stabilization account to be used for other projects down the road, which is, again, shows the projects that are being voted or being approved are being done in a responsible manner, and any monies that aren't used are being given back to the taxpayers. The next article, Article 9, actually talks about the new capital purchases this year. There are a lot of projects that the Capital Planning Committee decided to move forward. One that I'm particularly happy about is the fact that we're going to get some new electronic signs, one at the high school, at the entrance to the high school, and the other one at the town common. Perfect timing for the 300th anniversary that the town will be celebrating in June of 27, and to be able to have all town events easily advertised and identified as people drive by the common. There will be a representative of what the sign will look like at town meeting as well, so you can get an idea of just the graphics and things that will be on there. And from what I've seen of it already, I think you'll really be pleased. There are a lot of other capital items as well. There's a whole listing of them that you can see on the warrant and on the town website as well. Article 10 is going to be to amend our general bylaws, and that's more with respect to our revolving funds. There's one fund that's going to be added, and then as general housekeeping, we need to authorize the spending limits for 2027. There's a couple of standalone articles, 11, 12, and 13, that have to do with borrowing authorizations. And as you see why, you'll understand, why we brought these out of just general capital, and we're going to actually borrow them as part of debt service. One has to do with the SCBA replacement. That's the breathing apparatus that the fire department uses. They're out of what the acceptable date is. There's about a 10 to 12 year date that the bottles that are the firefighters use when they go into fighting a fire and they need any kind of breathing air when they're going into those things. Those have an expiration date. We've kind of reached end of life on those things, and we need to replace all that equipment. There's new masts that are fitted, differently now, so that it's a more secure seal for the firefighters and so forth. And that equipment does run, to be pretty expensive. So we're bringing it forward as a borrowing authorization. There's also a borrowing for a new fire engine that we need. And there's information on that again on the town website. And lastly, we're looking to make improvements to the East Street area. This is something that has been in the works for quite some time. I think, since I began, my tenure here in Uxbridge, it's been something that we've worked to find and amass the right amount of monies that we need to make this project a go. It's basically to put an improved pumping station in the East Street area that'll provide better pressure, et cetera, to the folks along the water line in that area. And we have a combination of funds that we have already put aside from the town through ARPA and other funds that we received. We have a $959,000 federal government grant that Congressman McGovern's office given us, and the remainder to complete this project is what we're looking to do as part of this borrowing authorization. Article 14 is a pilot agreement. As you know, we have two battery energy storage facilities that were approved in town, both in areas where these are actually workable. Uxbridge has the benefit of having major trunk lines pass through town, and where these storage facilities will be located are right where those lines kind of intersect, and it makes it easy to attach into those trunk lines to provide any storage, any electricity storage, etc., that would be in these batteries back into the grid. There are significant purchases or investments that they're making in the town. The one that we will be looking to get an authorization to go ahead and enter into a pilot with is a $230 million investment. Usually, and what these pilot agreements are going to be structured similar to what we have already in place for our solar arrays that are in town. What they do is they guarantee over a 20-year period or so of time that the town will collect the amount of taxes that we normally would collect, but on a depreciated basis with the storage facility. So in other words, it helps the developer early on recoup some investment, but at the back end of it, when the components are being depreciated at a higher rate, the town is still receiving the benefit of full taxation or the correct amount of taxation on those, even as they depreciate. The other reason why we would enter into a pilot agreement is to ensure that if the state changes any way these facilities are assessed, we would have a guaranteed payment that we would still get, even if the assessment that the state brings forward would be at a lower rate than what we would currently do the pilot at. So there's protection from the town side, just from a perspective for any residents who are concerned that there might be a big tax break being given to any of these facilities. There's two other check steps that any of these approved pilots would go through with Department of Revenue and other state agencies to make sure that it's all on the up and up, and that the town is not disenfranchised at all. So there's other agencies that check on these things as well to make sure that whatever we negotiate is in fact what the taxpayers of the town of Uxbridge should be receiving. There's going to be a transfer to our OPEB trust fund. We started doing that within the last couple of years. We want to make sure we keep up with that. and stay on track with that. And, obviously it's a significant liability to the town, but we want to make sure that, we're constantly funding it so that, we can get to a point where we have some significant funding to it. There'll be a transfer to capital stabilization as well. That's some of the, free cash monies and things along those lines, or transfer out of our general stabilization into capital to cover a lot of the capital projects that we're looking to authorize. A couple of other things in the next few articles have to do with deeds that we're going to be granted. One in lieu of a foreclosure on Gervais Way, another to acquire a permanent drainage easement on Richardson Street, and another for and then on Article 19 is a request for a contract extension for transportation services for the school district. Obviously, that's something that they're going to need to explain to the voters at town meeting to get an approval on. They already have a 3-year contract with their vendor. They're looking to get a 1-year extension for year 4, and they'll have the reasons why they need to be able to do that. Article 20 is something a little bit unique. As you know, we had a tragedy within the police department this year where we lost a police officer during the line of duty. What we're asking for in Article 20 is to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 42nd, that would allow for a waiver of taxes for any Blue Star families, similar to what we have already for Gold Star families. Gold Star families are families who lost a loved one during an armed conflict. In this case, it would be similar if there's a family in town who loses an Uxbridge police officer during line of duty, that their taxes would be waived as well. And that's what Article 20 is asking for approval from town meeting. Article 21, general bylaws, amend Chapter 144, and that's the fees for sealers of weights and measures. As you know, if you go to the gas station, a gas pump, or you go into the deli at Hannaford's or Big Y, there's usually a sticker on there that kind of certifies that if you're buying a pound of cheese, that is actually a pound of cheese that you're getting. Or if you're at a gas station, you're getting a gallon of gas, and that's a gallon that's coming through the pump. Those are sealed. The state does that for us, and then they bill us back. So what we need to do is make sure our fees are consistent with what we're being billed. It's not a revenue-generating item. It's one to make sure that the town breaks even on this. Also, we have a number of cannabis facilities in town as well, and any scales that they use are also certified, in addition to anybody else who has the use of anything that needs to have a defined weight on it. Article 22, this is to amend Section 400-16 of our zoning bylaws having to do with accessory dwelling units. Obviously, this has become a hot topic since the governor, changed some regulations with respect to affordable housing, and this kind of tracks along those lines. And it's to make sure that what we have in place is in line with, both building code and what the state regulations are. So if there's anything, there'll probably be some pretty good discussion on this item at town meeting. And then the last two articles, 23 and 24, are citizens petitions. And those are the responsibility of the petitioner, who's bringing both those forward to make their case at town meeting for approval. I want to remind everybody that this particular taping is going to be on the town's website, in addition to all the other public hearings that have occurred, both with especially the joint meetings of the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen. It's real easy to find all of them. If you go to the home page of the town website, you'll see a series of buttons. The one to the extreme right will say Town Meeting. If you click on that, everything you need for town meeting, including this warrant, the budget, all the recordings for the that I mentioned with respect to the public hearings on the budget, so you can hear how things were discussed and what the discussion on each of the topics was. There's links to all of them there. There's a budget message that I provided early on to the select board and the finance committee. My slides are on there. And like I said, any other information you would need to be prepared for town meeting is there. We're taping this on April 30th, hopefully by tomorrow, May 1st, or maybe on the weekend, the 2nd, the latest, this will be up. So there'll be at least 10 days that you have to review this and a number of other things to get you prepared for town meeting. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at my office. The town manager's office, the phone number is 508-278-8600, extension 7. And you'll be able to reach my office and be able to answer any questions that you have directly, or feel free through the town's portal. You can send me an email and I'll be able to respond to you there. Other than that, I hope that now that we're coming into what I hope is the beginning of spring, that we finally get some really nice weather, and that all those activities that take place in town, the various fairs that might be going on, yard sales, and then obviously all the sports activities and so forth that are going on the weekend, that everybody could have some pretty enjoyable time as we lead into both the end of the school year and the beginning of summer. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention, and look forward to seeing you on May 12th, 7 p.m., Valley Chapel, for the spring annual town meeting. Thank you.